everybody, Wendy here. Fitzy's back at it again with another one. The old Mustang, she put up a fight, but I think he got it. He better stick around.
Okay, let's get started on this rear end. You may be wondering what's going on here, what I'm planning on doing here. There's a couple of things going on that I want to change. This got like 373s in the back of it, and I want to make a nice simple little cruiser out of it. So I got an entire center section right here, 308s I think. Then I'm going to swap out the gear ratio. Also, this car, if you look at it, it sits extremely high. At one point or another, someone put a helper spring in the back of it, so I want to remove the helper spring. Apparently an axle broke off somewhere along the line in this here, and the U-bolts and everything are all grinded down. You can see that a wheel fell off it or something. And so I want to replace all that, put all that new in it. So what we're going to do here now is going to jack this up, and I'm going to pull the axles out of it, pull the center section out of it, pull the housing out of it, the leaves, and clean everything up and see what I need to replace on it. So here's what we got going on here. I went and hauled the drums off it. Drums looks good. I remember replacing a bunch of this stuff on this car when I first got it. And it looks like the wheel cylinders, all that is good on it. Shoes, all that. But you can see here, you can actually see where there's damage on the bottom side of that. So something like a wheel or something fell off it. Right here, they put a drain plug in the bottom of the housing and it leaks. So that's got to be remedied. So the housing got to be taken out of it. Other than that, if you look here, you can see there's a, which one is it? This one here. One of these is a helper spring. I think it's this one here. This one here is a helper spring that they put in it to jack the back of the car up. And I don't like the jacked up look, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it all apart, put new center bolts in it, and take that spring out both sides, and then put the pack back together again and see what it sits like. I don't want if it sits a bit low in the back because I like to lower the front down. I kind of like a low look on these cars. I don't like them jacked up in the air. And so other than that, everything looks straightforward. So I'm just going to go ahead and haul all this apart. I got a pinion seal is leaking on this center section here. And I got to change the pinions over because the other one's got a different front yoke. But I'll show you that when I get to the part. Well, I made short order of that. I got everything hauled out of her. The rear end is gone, leaf springs are gone. I got the packs put together again. These are the original springs, and these ones back here are the helper springs that were in it, one from each side. And I got them taken out, and I got them laid together there now where they're supposed to go. So they're ready to go. I got to get a new center bolt. I did non-bolt nutting. I cut everything. Not one for reusing U-bolts, especially when they're old. You know, I go out and I buy new U-bolts, new center bolts, all that. Don't fool around with that. That type of material is soft and it pulls on the threads, so once you tightens it up, you know, kind of like it pulls on the metal, and the same with them there. And reusing them a few times gets iffy, so I just assume replace them every time you go to do any type of this work. For a lot of it's peace of mind, right? But I got all that done, and I got the housing being drained there now, and I got everything hauled apart, sizing up what it needs. I need to get a couple of side axle seals. And over here, I got the center section. Right here, I got that out. I went and done a spin test on it. It's 355s. I thought it might have been 373s, but it's not. It's only 355s in it. Where we live, we do a lot of highway driving back and forth to town, and the car got small tires on it. So I'm thinking this just drove up the gear ratio with small tires. So my plan is I have these ones here. These are a set of 275s. And the funniest thing about it, both of them are POS units, okay? And it's pretty cool. This came out of that rear end that I made for Krusty. That was the center section that was in it. It's all ready to go. All I'm going to do is just clean it up. I got to change around the pinion right here. I changed that around with this one here. So I'm going to pop them off, and I might as well put a pinion seal in it while I'm at it. So I'll get them all hauled apart, get these all cleaned up, and figure out what I need to get, and start putting this all back together again. As far as I know, I need U-bolts, center bolts, side axle seals, and pinion seal, and then I can put it back together. I don't need no brake hardware, So it should be pretty well straightforward and quick. I'm going to give it a quick clean up. Not going to get carried away with it and give it a little coat of paint and everything. And so get it all straightened away. But this is basically as far as I'm going to get for today. I'm going to start cleaning up that housing because I got to run to town now tomorrow and pick up some U-bolts and center bolts. I'm going to see if I can figure out what side axle seals I get, see if I can get them local. I got the center section all cleaned up. I got to get that pinion changed. Now, I was going to pull the pinion off of this one and put on that rear end, but I do have a lot of this 9-inch stuff kicking around, and I think I'm just going to leave that one whole section together as one piece and have a look and find another pinion. I notice I do have a lot of them kicking around. The problem with that is the hatch to get upstairs is right there, and that's in the way. So I got to maneuver some stuff around here now. I didn't even thinking about it last night. You can see now that's there, and the hatch is right above it. So I'm here now. I got the Oldsmobiles out in the yard, and I got the Chevy on them blocks now. I'm going to move some stuff around here now so I can get that out of the way so I can get access to that there. That's not sketchy or nothing, is it? It's the only place I can put them. Be very, very gentle moving this now. See if I can get that moved out of the corner there. What can go wrong here? Luckily you got a smooth floor. This is a rough floor. Oh my God, it's a mess up here. Brand new. One. Two. I'm not sure what size I need, so I figure I put both of them down. Check them there now. Another mess to clean up. Oh my God, so easy to make a mess. I went and checked both of them here. This one's too big. It's a bigger one. So that one there looks, oh hang on, that's the right size, is it? Yes, that one's the right size. This one's too big. Yeah, that one's too big. So that's the one I need, it's right there. Okay. Beats taking that one apart. I'm going to leave it all one unit. That's a pause unit as well. I could probably put a different set of gears on that if I want to. And if I want to change it up a bit more. So you never know what we might end up with a drag strip of this. But I got that. A lot of work I had to go through to get that, isn't it? To get a few of them. I have a lot of this old 9-inch stuff kicking around, so I knew I had some up there. But I'm going to clean all this place up now. Put everything away, poke that over in the corner so I can get back at this. I got parts out there, I got to get prepped. I got them all turned sideways in the garage. I always find that this way here, apparently I get more room because I can put stuff in tight against the 2-bay doors. And I got access to get around this one a lot more now. I got a lot more room here than I did when I was down the other end of it. So I got all that straightened away now. I just got to clean up the garage here a bit. And then get started on cleaning all this stuff up. All I'm going to do with this is give it a quick clean up. And not get carried away with it, no sandblasting like that. Rubbing it down with a grinder and giving it a coat of black just to freshen it up. I'm not getting crazy with this. It's a nice little street car, bomb around in. I got this side all marked, the driver's side. Got all the springs marked, so I know what side is for what. And I get the rear end welded up, and because I had that major leak in the bottom of it. You can see there's a leak there. That's where the leak was too. I don't need that in this rear end housing. They put that in this, so I'm just going to weld it up and grind it off. And leave it at that. So get cleaned up here now and get all them parts cleaned up. So I got all them grinded off. I never got carried away with it. All I'm doing is knocking the scale off it, just enough so the paint can stick to it. That's all I'm doing with it. You can get carried away with this stuff, send it off, have it sandblasted and etch prime it, and you know, and then paint it and epoxy it and do all kinds of rust converters and all that. No, I'm just cleaning this up, coat of paint, done. Right? Got all these here ready to go. Same thing. Just gonna put a rust paint on them, trim clad. Put 2 or 3 coats on it. That'll be fine for me. This fitting was leaking in the bottom of it. You can see someone had jerry rigged, and it's a factory setup. I thought that it was put in it, but that's a factory setup. And I found, going through my bin of bolts, I found a nice one that'll actually tighten up in it. So I'm just going to replace it and be done with it. I got that all cleaned up. That's pretty well ready for paint now. So I'm going to get this all painted here now. So I went ahead and I got the entire center section all looked at and checked over. Got a new pinion seal put in it. I wasn't fooling around with it. I figured it was probably going to end up leaking anyway, so I said I got a new one put in it, and brought it out to my buddy. He checked everything over and made sure everything was done right. And I got all that done, and so now I'm starting to put everything back together here now. I got the leaf springs put in. I got new U-bolts, or new center bolts there as well. I got new U-bolts here for the rear end. And I'm in the process now of getting ready now to put the rear end back up in the car so I can actually bolt it all in and get it done. So let's get it all bolted in now. So we got the rear end all put back in place. Got it all bolted up. Painted up a few bits again. Give it all freshen up, and I'm starting to actually run the brake lines. I just hooked up the brake line there and the vent on the other side. You can see the hose over there. Get that done. So at the air now it's ready to do all the brakes on it, so which is good. And got that much done. That's another one of our challenges done. So the rear end is all done. Everything's all painted up and cleaned up. I'll probably cut off them bolts later on, but I'm not going to cut them off yet. One's for the U-bolts. But all of them went together good. I don't know what the height of it is going to sit like now, but I took out the helper spring, so it should be fine. But one thing, here we go. Wendy was sizing things up, and she wasn't fussy on her steering wheel, okay? The steering wheel is missing sections over here and here, and it do have an abundance of rust in it. Now when you're driving down the road, this is what you're looking at. Now these are nice wheels and all that, and there's a lot of corrosion on these here. Like, it's not a perfect steering wheel, right? So she looked around online. We said, you know, see if we can find you an aftermarket steering wheel. It's not too expensive. And this is what she found. She liked this one here, and so we picked this up. In order to buy this, we had to buy an adapter kit to put an adapter kit to the pattern here to bolt to that. And then we also had to get the adapter kit for the steering column in the car to Ford. From Ford to a 3-point. And this unit here is the 3.1 that takes you up to the steering wheel section. So I'm going to play with this now, put all this together and see what we got. I'm not putting this in it yet. I just figured it just showed up. Well, these showed up last week. This just showed up today. So I figured I'd just come out here and play with it a bit, right? So, well, I got ahead of myself. I got all the brakes on it. I got the brake lines all ran and put out to the outside of it. The drums are on it. And I got the wheels and everything put back on it. And I got to put down. I think it sits pretty good there now. It's probably going to lower a little bit more in the back. But it sits a lot better than it did. It was way too high in the back, right? But I had to put it on his wheels. I was here at it. And I was going to put the drive shaft in it. And I ended up, that had to be painted. But I come to realize the universal in the back was stiff. So I got to go order the universal for that to put that in, so I might as well just go ahead and replace the front one as well, because I noticed that there is a little bit, so now's the time to do it, so I'll end up putting that in. So I couldn't put drive shaft in it right away, so I said I'm going to continue on with everything else on the car. I'm going to get the interior now finished up on the car. I'm going to get the stereo, the gauges, get that steering wheel put in place, get the seats in it, seat belts cleaned up, back seat, get this rear package tray done. Hard to see with all the dirt. Get the package tray made up and put in it. So I had to hit the car down, put it on its wheels, roll it back so I can get up the attic, because there's a bunch of stuff up in the attic belonging to the car that I got to get. So that's right here now. So it's a slow process. I've been picking and poking at this here. So, okay, here's what I got here. I got the rear dash pad, the one that was in the car, and it was an old padded thing. As you can see, it was pretty rough. Okay, and I'm going to make a new one here. I went and done a test fit in the back of the car, in the back dash back there. You can see where it was two. I got two 6x9 speakers that got to go in here. And I've done a quick test fit, and it just seems like it's a little bit short on this end. The length seems to be good, and the everything else seems fine, the shape of it and everything like that, but it just seems like when I put it in, I put it tight to one side, I got about a ½ an inch more, so I'm going to add a little bit to both sides and trim it as I needs to go. What I'm using is this board. You buy it 4x8 sheets, and if you look closely, I don't know if you can see it there, but it's got a texture on it. Right? It's got a nice little texture on it. I bought a bunch of this for the camper I'm doing, and so I'm going to use this to make the back dash. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, scuff it off, I'm going to paint it with the dash paint that I got there. So I'm going to go ahead now and mark this out, and I'm going to take a jigsaw and cut this panel out. So I got them all cut out and trimmed up, sanded. I marked the holes from the existing holes were there, and basically drilled out the 4 holes for the speaker bolt hole. Then I laid the speaker on top of it and test fit it, marked it on the inside of the speaker, and then cut the hole out. That's all I did there. So I got 2 of them ready. These are the speaker covers. I'm not one for a lot of obnoxious speaker covers in old cars. I'm going to paint these at the same color as this here, just to tone it down a bit, because you can just look at that, how, to me, I was never into that. So I'm going to tone that down a bit so it'll be the same color as the interior. And all I'm going to use on it is that same dye that I used on the dash. Okay, I got some of it still left in the can. So I'm going to paint 2 of them and paint that rear dash panel now green, or well, blue, whatever it is, that color's in that can, that same color as the dash. All I'm going to do here now is I sanded all this with 320 paper. Give it a quick scuff them as well. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wash it all down with a drop of thinners, and then go ahead and spray it with that. Yep, nightmare after nightmare. I've, after sitting down now, decided to fill everything up with fluids. For some reason, the back line back here leaked on the junction on top of the rear end. It leaked on the wheel cylinder going into it. I know where I made a mistake there. That line leaked. This line here leaked because it was loose. The one on the other side leaked because it was loose. Look, oh, there's no master cylinder. The one down here leaked, which is over here. This is the junction. This one here leaked, and there's why it leaked. What I did is I put it in cross-threaded. It's my own fault. And basically stripped it out. So now I gotta go find one of these. The line is extremely short. Where's he to? Where'd the line disappear? Here it is there. See how small the line is? I talked about that before. After making this line a second time now, after making a couple of lines. But putting it in with everything in the car, that bolting onto that there, coming down that small, it's just too much for it. And I ended up putting it in cross-threaded. I should have took it all apart and bolted this on here first. What I got done here now, that's what I should have done. So I'm held up on brakes now because I got to find one of these. It was not one thing, it's another. I went and filled it all up with fluids. She's got oil, transmission fluid. I overfilled that, dumped all that on the floor. Power steering fluid is in it. I never put no water in the radiator yet. I got set of fan belts put on it. I tidied up plug wires a bit. Tidied up the wiring. I got the gauges put in her, along with Wendy's new steering wheel. It's a nice little piece. I got the gauges put in there. They're all hooked up. I got the stereo back in it. I got to finish wiring all that in there. I got to find the lead and everything like that, and I noticed the leak on the brake line, so I went at that and what's it called? Oh, the back dash. I got that all painted and the speakers painted. I ended up painting the speakers silver because I was running out of blue, because the day I painted this rear panel, it was really humid here and it all went blush on me. It went white, so I had to leave it alone and paint it again. So I never had quite enough paint to paint them. I didn't want to leave them black, so I ended up painting them silver. So that don't look that bad, right? Looks pretty good, the old back pad and everything in it. So that's all done. I want to get all the interior and everything back in again. I'm trying to finish this off. Like, I have all the wiring done, check it all out, everything is done, okay? I'm trying to finish everything right off so I can actually take it for a drive. I went to put the drive shaft in it. I went to locally and tried to find a universal for the back of it. But seems like this car here got his own special universal, typical of Ford. And so I got to order in a rear universal for it. The end of the transmission seal on the back of the transmission, that leaked. A lovely mess over there. That's the overfill there. That was from the leak. She's fighting me, fighting me, fighting me. So I'm at it. I'm trying to get stuff done. So I'm going to go back at it again now. So here's where I'm at. I turned around now while I was waiting to pick up some parts. I decided that I was going to check all the wiring in the car, put a battery in it, and go through everything. Well, that just turned into a nightmare. I did go through this entire wiring harness and had to do some repairs on it and whatnot and, you know, things. So I figured there was going to be a scattered issue, but not as many as this, okay? I turned the key in the on position. I never had no lights. I never had no power to the coil. I never had no power to the starter. I had nothing. I started stripping everything apart. I had a loose plug on the light switch. Fixed them there. I forgot to plug in a wire on the coil, or on the distributor, or sorry, on the key for the coil. And out underneath the hood here, I had 2 wires on the solenoid backwards. So it was all simple stuff, but I had to trace every bit of it down bit by bit by bit by bit. So then, going through all that, I do still have the heater not working. Now, I'm not quite sure if the heater ever worked in this car or not. That's the last thing. I decided to check the radio, and as you can see, the radio is on the dash. I run into some problems. When I turn the music on, I turn it up, she'd kill the speakers, and then I come down to it. I got the 2 speakers in the back there. I unplug one speaker, and that speaker would work. This speaker wouldn't. So I chased all the wires to whole 9 yards. There must be something grounding on this here. Because once I took it out of the car and I cleaned it up, the problem I had is I had these left in the car now the whole time the car's in here, and the magnets and everything are all full of steel. So that was probably the fault. And it was grounded itself out somewhere. So now I think I got that fixed. I can turn the radio up and it doesn't trip out. I can put that back in the car. I can start assembling all this now, other than for the heater. So I'm going to check for the heater, but before I does anything else, puts anything back, because I may have to get in behind with radios too. So I'm going to see if I can get the heater working. On another good note, that piece that I needed for the booster, I managed to lock into that. This here is the new one I picked up. There's the old one that I stripped out. Okay. And there's the new one. They're out of a Ford Granada. Thanks to Paul, one of my friends. He had scrapped a Granada a while ago, and he didn't need this piece, so I went down and picked it up off him. And he also had the rear seal for the transmission, which was deadly. He had a bunch of C4 stuff there, so I got the seal for the transmission. That was deadly. So I didn't have to order none of that in. I got all that locally. So now I got that there ready. I got to modify this bracket here so it welds back onto this here and fits on it, clean this up and whatnot, and get it ready. But before I goes at that, I'm going to get back at this wiring and see if I can get everything working. I want to have everything working on the car before I even made an attempt to start it. Because once you get the car running, all that gets put on the back burner. You don't think about it. So I try to do it in such a way that the last thing to do will be getting it running. Chasing wiring problems can be fun, but nightmares at times. I'm here now, and the only thing I had left to do, I got stereo working, I got all lights working, was the heater, okay? The heater switch was right here going out into the underneath the firewall. You can see the red box down there, plugged into that. chasing it back through, and how it works, it's all live, and this switch goes to ground, okay? Now, I never had no power on the switch whatsoever. I traced back the power lines right back to this switch, and I had power all the way, so it ran down to ground. And this is what I found. These little terminals here just runs to ground, right? The ground is on the switch itself over on this side here. So when you flick the switch, I got it all jammed up in the voice there, and I got it clamped down. But when you move the switch from each one, all it does is it puts a ground to each one. And the problem with it was I wasn't getting a good connection. I got them cleaned up there now, and I put a little dab of solder on them because they're brass and copper. So I'm hoping that the solder can take to them. I don't need much, just enough to make a contact here so it actually got a good ground. Because the problem I'm having is these move. That was the problem there. Now, you're looking at that saying, well, Tony, you know, it's a heater. What do you need to worry about a heater for? Here's the problem. In order to take that heater switch out, this has to come out. This lever here. Oh, let me get in here. Oh, so comfortable. This has to come out. Now, in order to get this out, there's a bolt here, and there's a bolt on the bottom here. To get at this one here, you gotta have the radio out. To get at that bottom one there, you gotta have the cluster out, reach your hand in through there. So, like, you know, if I don't fix this now, I'm gonna have to haul all this out of the car to fix it later. There's no way of getting it out without bolting all that. At least I never found a way, because the bolt's in through the side here, and I can't get the lighters in the way to get a socket this way to unbolt it. So I'm gonna go ahead, see if I can get some solder on that, and hopefully now that will be the end of my wiring dilemmas. I don't think so. Just an utter mess. Look. You swear I wasn't doing nothing. I've been at stuff and I didn't care and I just want to get it done, and this poor old car is beating me good. But I'm trying to get the better of them. Everything is back to normal again. So I got this done now. The problem with the heater switch was grounds, okay? The switch was good. It just had bad grounds. I cleaned them up. Everything seems to be working good. But I know what the issue is actually in the switch itself. It's nowhere else in the system. I went through a whole bunch of other things there. I got everything working now. Neutral safety switch is even working, which is amazing. And it's very sensitive, because if you pull back on the lever a small bit in park, it won't start. You got to push the lever all the way forward. But other than that, I'm happy with that now. I pretty well, anything else that I run into now, I should be able to get it with the seats in the car. One of the reasons why I want to do this now, because once I put the seats in, it really gets to be a pain to work on these cars. Luckily, I haven't got the original steering wheel on it, because in order to work under the dash in these cars, a lot of times, you got to take steering wheel off. So, but I'm happy with that now. One thing about wiring, like I had 1, 2, 3, 4... I think I had 5 wiring issues with this car that I was trying to sort out. When you're doing problems with a car, just sit down and think about them. Okay, I haven't got power to key. Well, concentrate on that. Go and search how that system works. Online, there's lots and lots of diagrams. I will pinpoint diagrams. I went and looked up the ignition key for a 66 Mustang, okay? I looked up the wiring diagram for that. When I found that, I knew my color codes and I knew where they went to. So then I just traced them back. And I done one wire at a time. I didn't fool around like going through wires, just one wire. When I found the problem, I knew where it was to, okay? When I had that problem fixed, I moved on to the next one wire at a time. People find wiring very intimidating, because they just look at it as a grumble of wires. Your best bet is to just look at it as one wire, okay? You got one wire as a problem. You got to find out what the color is first, and then you had to go from there. All these factory cars got color codes. All of them basically will tell you where the colors will go for the most part. There was some issues because this here had a... What was the wire? This had a red with a gray in here that went to a red and a gray in the ignition, but when this side of the plug, it turned into a pink wire, and the pink wire went to the ignition. I had it hanging underneath the dash and didn't know where it went. But when I looked at the wiring harness, I figured out where that wire went. That was the reason why I never had no power on the key, is because, or no power on the coil, because this wire here was basically ending here and it was just hanging underneath the dash. So little things like that, because I had the entire wiring out of this car and I had to sort it out. So I had to chase the wires back, one wire at a time. That's all I ever done. It's challenging. I enjoy wiring, sadly to say. Most people hate it because they look at it and they grab a handful of wires. Okay? Like this down here, they look at this and they go, oh my God, what am I going to do with all this? Okay? All I ever does is I'll start with that there. Look. There's one wire. Where does that go? Okay? Don't ever worry about the rest of them. There's only one wire you got to deal with. Now, I got that all straightened away. I'm getting close to being able to start this here. How to get back at the master cylinder. So where was I? I've been fighting with the brakes on this car. And as you can see, there's this pile on the floor. These are lines that I had on the car. They leaked. Had to take them off and replace them. Everything there is fooled up one way, shape, or form. I made a line, tightened it up so much that it fooled up the flex line. The seat in it, they tore it up. And so I had to go get a new flex line. Of course, I stripped out the proportioning valve. You all knew that. And these lines here just kept leaking at me and I kept making them up. I made up the line on the master cylinder 3 times. The line on the passenger side 3 times. One on this side, twice. I couldn't figure out what was going on, and I finally figured out what it is, okay? This is the system I've been using all along, and a lot of people hate them. I've got it a lot of years, and I've had no troubles with it, okay? Now, here's what happened, okay? When I got all the brake lines done, I was left with that line and the 2 lines on the back, okay? This here broke off on me, okay? This is the flare piece for doing the flare. But I managed to turn around and play around with it, and I thought I got them flared with what I had here, because this broke off and I didn't want to run out and get one, okay? So I went ahead and the flares looked good. So I went and put them on the car, but they leaked. I ended up going out and buying a cheap one of these, just from your local hardware store, nothing fancy, okay? And I bought this one here, the replacement for that one, and I start making the lines again, like you would, you made the lines. What ended up happening then, I started to notice is that this here, this little sleeve that comes down from this here, is narrower than what it was originally. So this had a tendency to rock in the end of the line, and then it flared on an angle, and then the lines used to leak. I've been chasing this now for a few days, getting very frustrated with it, walking away from it, coming back at it. This is what I ended up doing. I'm here now. I got the brakes bled. I had to come out here this morning with a little drop of fluid on the floor here. And I got down underneath it, and I could have snugged up the line a little bit. So I'm going to clean this up now and leave it alone, see where it's to. So I got that all ironed out, and I got a leak. Of course, the transmission is leaking. I cleaned up underneath the bottom of the car because I wanted to see where all the leaks were to. There's a real bad leak on the tail shaft transmission. I knew I have a new seal for that. Over here, I didn't know what this was. This is a speedometer cable, so speedometer cable's leaking. But what's getting me is up here, this is oil coming out of the new oil filter, okay? So I'm thinking there's a couple of different oil filters for the Fords, okay? But she's dripping oil out of that. I'm gonna leave it alone for now. I got to give it an oil change. I want to put the, run oil through it, change it again in the car anyway. Hopefully it doesn't leak too bad when it's running. But something tells me that Ford had a couple of different seals on the top of the oil filter for different years, and I probably got the wrong one. That's what I think it is. If you know if that's right or not, put it in the comment section down below. Also, I went after I bled the brakes. I got the lines made up, as you can see here, and I've have to realize one thing. That is the rear brakes, that is the front brakes. The problem with it is, that is the front brakes, that is the rear brakes. So now I got to take it all apart again and flip around these 2 lines, because I got too much pressure on the back and not enough on the front. And usually when you got a master cylinder like this with a larger reservoir, that there is your disc brake, that there is your drum brake. It's no big deal. It's just I got to do it all again, make up new lines. That'll be 4 lines for that back one. It's always something, but on a good note, okay? Oh, all the interiors back in it. Back seats, back dash, seat belts, carpet. The only thing I haven't got put on is the door panels, for the simple fact that I got to put door handles and everything on after it's painted, and there was no reason to putting it on right now. But I got seat belts in it, all the dashes back together. When he was sat in it, we adjusted the seat for her to sit in the car. I got the sill plates put in place, all mounted, screwed on in place. Carpet's all trimmed up. Everything's looking right nice. So the interior is officially finished, okay? Which is a bonus, right? So I'm moving forward. I had to do something to move forward on the car, so that's what I ended up doing, putting the seats and everything back in it. So what I'm going to end up doing here now is fixing that brake line and that tail shaft, and put the seal in that because that's going to leak really bad. And like basically what's left here now is I'm to the point now of firing this up. So I'm going to go ahead, fix all these few issues that I got. When it comes back, hopefully I'll be ready to fire it up. Now I haven't had this car going now in, I think 3 or 4 years now. For sure, 3 years most certainly. It was a running engine when I took it out. I haven't done nothing with it. I never so much as moved the distributor. I went and brought her up on number 1 and just double checked it. She is on number 1 there, so everything seems copacetic and fine there now. But with the luck I've been having with this car, I don't know what I'm going to run into here now. So I had never put no water in her. I never bothered put no gas in the back of her yet. I'm just going to pour some gas down the carburetor and see if it starts. So let's give this a whirl here now. Jam something in the choke for now. Keep it open. Good old-fashioned petrol. Don't be afraid of her. Yes, plenty. And let's see if she starts. First time in 3 years, maybe 4. Interesting. Why don't you do that? I've never had this off at all. Let me loosen that up and adjust the timing. I'm going to go double check the firing order on this, make sure I got all the plug wires in the right place, and we'll give her a try again. So it's alive. The troubles I had. Okay, where are we going to start with? First of all, it was backfiring through the carb, couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. I wired this up from the way it was from factory. One was back here and then worked its way around counterclockwise. Double checked it, triple checked it. And I decided to do a spin over again on it and brought it up on number 1 down here. When I hauled the cap off it, it was 180 degrees off. Now, the problem with this is I never had a distributor out of this car. These are a bit tricky. You take these up out of these here and there's a little shaft in the bottom, and every now and again it may fall out and it's part of the oil pump or something, and it then slides down to the pan. It's a bit of a nightmare. So I said, no, I'm going to leave that alone. So all I did then is instead of lifting it up and turning it and doing all that type of stuff, I just went 180 off and moved them around, played around with it, and I got it to start. No, I didn't. Then basically it fire on the fuel. Couldn't figure out what's going on. So I started sizing up the fuel pump down here. Now if you look at that fuel pump, let me get some light on this. So when you look down here, there's 2 lines coming out of the fuel pump, okay? Now every time you buy one of these here, every time you look at pictures of them on the internet, basically the fuel line comes out of here and goes up to the carburetor, and it's a, a fitting on this side, okay? So I was trying to figure out what was going on here. The problem that I had is that I had it wired up the way I done it, but the fittings seem to be backwards, because a lot of the pumps that I see online, the fitting is here and not here, okay? And the fitting side goes to the carburetor. That's what it is. Now, the problem I run into here, I couldn't figure out what it was, and it's the first one I've seen like it. I had to switch around the two lines. I had lines on backwards. You know, and it's just a common thing. You know, you didn't know. I thought that, like, I went online, looked at the fuel lines, the way they're rigged up on the cars, and the one in closest to the engine block, this one here, goes up to the carburetor. But just so happens, I got a fuel pump that's backwards. Oh, my. So I got that sorted out, and she started firing, and then she started to run. That there is dirt, okay? I picked it up at a swap meet. Didn't pay a lot of money for it, now, mind you. It doesn't idle very good. It's got a very, very bad mist in it when it's at low RPM. It probably needs kit and everything put in it. I'm going to end up taking the Holly off of my 51 Chev and see if I can get this running right. It runs good at high idle, but when you bring it down to idle, the whole thing shakes mad. I come to find out there's exhaust manifold leak on the passenger side. There's no donut gasket on the passenger side because there's like a steel flange on the manifold. So I may just pop that down and put a bit of that gold stuff on it and see if it'll seal up. If not, I got to modify the manifold to take a donut gasket, because it's a bit unusual. I'll figure it out anyway. It's just a simple little thing. Other than that, I went and ran her through a cycle, filled up the radiator with water, and ran her through a cycle, ran her hot, and then let her cool off, and then let the thermostat open, and topped it up again. I want to make sure everything's leaking. I'm going to have to drain it off in it again and put antifreeze in it. Every time I put antifreeze in a car, it leaks. So I turns around, I put water in it, runs it through motions. Once I'm happy with it, I'll just pop the lower hose off it, drain it off, then put antifreeze in it. Because usually the water pump leaks, or the engine block leaks, or the radiator leaks. There's always something in here. It's a waste of money to put antifreeze in it. So all that is through it. It's running finally. It's running pretty good, other than that carburetor issue. And so I finally got it running. So now I'm going to take this, see if I can take this for a run next. So close, but yet so far away. I was here last night, and I turned around and figured I got it running. And I had to bleed the brakes because I changed the brake lines. One to the front, one to the back. I made up new lines. Went to bleed the brakes. This line is leaking. Tried to tighten it up. Won't stop leaking. So I got that flare shagged up. Something to be said about them cheap flaring tool sections. This has been a nightmare. I'm just going to have to go out and get a good quality flaring tip, because this is just fighting with me. But I'm going to try to jerry rig it again today, make up that one last line. This will be the 5th time for this line now. This line here. It's totally, utterly crazy. I've never went through this much trouble in all my life with brake lines, and I've made a lot of brake lines over the years. Anyway, get that made up now and get the brakes bled. This thing don't want to run. Got the brakes fixed. Now I've been trying to get it to idle. And the carburetor's no good to me. It's not one thing, it's another. God knows what I gotta do. It's another new day. All right, I got my head cleared from this yesterday. I was at it a couple hours, and trying to get it to take it for a run. That's what I was after. And earlier I had it idling and running. The carburetor needed to be done. But I figured that was enough to get it running. And then it just went south from there. Just got worse and worse and worse. Wouldn't idle. Did it backfired a couple of times. So I'm still chasing issues. I don't know if it's carburetor or not. So my plan is here today now is I'm going to take the carburetor off my 51 Chev, because that was originally on this car, and put this on, see if I can get it running with that, because I think the problem's in the carburetor. Trying to dial it in, you know, trying to get it close on timing and stuff like that. It starts, it turns over easy. It's just that it just won't idle. And when you turn up the idle, it smoothens out. But around the idle, around say between 6 and 1,000 RPM, it runs like dirt. So I got to get it to see if I can get it run better down there, and then see if I can get it to move. But first things first, the garage is a mess here. The bench is a total explosion. I haven't done nothing with this since I've been working on the car. So I'm going to go ahead, clean all this up, get everything straightened away around here now, put away some tools, tidy up. When I get all that done, then I'll get started on this one. I'm going to see if I can get this for a run today. I like to finish this up and finish this video up with this here as a driver. So, cross me fingers. Well, the bench is all clean. The garage is all clean. And nothing fancy. I got hauled in. People are probably wondering, Tony, why you take the carburetor off of this. The carburetor on this car come from this car. And all I did is I took it from here and put it onto here. The reason why I didn't use it on Wendy's, this carburetor haven't got choke. And I'm on the choke on this car. So I went fooling around trying to get this straightened away. Picked up a carburetor. I wants to order in a kit for this. But I wants to make sure it's my problem. I got backfiring issues. And I don't know if it's in the carburetor or if it's in the timing or something else. Like this engine did run good. And it's been a few years now since I had it going. So with the luck I've been having, something stupid's probably gone wrong in this, right? So I'm going to verify that everything is okay, because I know this carburetor works good and it's not going to take me very long. The biggest dilemma I got is I got to change fuel lines, and it's only down to the pump. Just make up a new one. I'll take this one here and I'll lay it aside, and I'll just run up a new one to the Holly. So I'm going to go ahead now, haul the carburetor off of this, and get the other one fitting. All right, as you can see, put it on, was no big deal, and it made me figure stuff out. I fired it up and did the same thing it did with the other carburetor. So I knew then there was something else going on. While back, I looked up on the internet and looked up the firing order on these. I'm a Chevy guy, so I'm not familiar with Fords so much. So I looked up on the internet to find out what the firing order was, and I found this picture. The bottom it says 289 Ford, okay? That was the firing order I used. It's the wrong firing order. So I'm going to have to turn around and set this up again now and go through this. I couldn't figure out what was going on. It backfired. It ran. I don't know how it ran, but it ran, and it stuttered and it rocked right mad and everything, right? And I said, there's something going on. And when I put the new carburetor on it, she done the exact same thing. I knew it wasn't a carburetor then. So I said, there's something else going on. I had to sit down and think about it. And I said, what is the firing order? Let me double check the firing order on this now. And I kept going by that photograph, that picture that I found on the internet. And I don't know where I found it. But Ford, these engine blocks here, the 289s, 302, the high output 302s, it's basically the same engine, but they have different firing orders. The later one has a different firing order than the earlier one. I went and wired this with the newer style firing order. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So I got to put the original one back in it. But the picture, this picture here, wrote right underneath it, 289 firing order. It just blows my mind. Anyway, let's go through this now and see what I can come up with. Alright, so we got it running. I've been chasing down a problem with this car now a while, and about 6 months ago I done a search, and as I showed you before, that firing order I had was the wrong one. It said 289 firing order underneath it, but it was not. It was a firing order for a 5 litre HO or 351, and that's what I was trying to wire this up as. I did a bit of research, come to realise that I had the wrong firing order in it. So I don't know, I'm going to put that carburetor eventually back on it and try that again. But what I'm going to do here now is, the car hasn't been driven in a long time. I've been checking fluids, everything seems to be okay, let it run for a while, going to be good. So what I'm going to do now is take it for a little run up the road and run back, and hopefully I don't break down. She don't look half bad, all cleaned up. Spent a few hours washing her, cleaning her all up underneath the hood, getting rid of all the old dust and everything off her. And then I went ahead and I bolted the hood on her. So there we have it. I got it running. I had it for a drive. Still need some tuning to be done to it. I got to swap back the carburetor, get it running on that. Forgot to hook up the speedometer cable. I can hear it rattling in the dash. A couple of other little things. Other than that, works pretty good. Power steering belt, it needs to be replaced. It's an old belt. I just put it on temporarily so she squeaks a bit when you turns. It doesn't matter how tight I got it. So the belt is not all that hot. But, you know, finally got the thing running and for a drive. That's the main thing here. So, but been a lot of work getting this to here. Many nights I've walked away from this car because I've had all kinds of troubles with it. It's just been one issue, one problem, one after another with this car. I've run into this in the past with putting cars together and getting them finished up and stuff like that, but this one here is really putting them a fight because I got myself convinced I'm not going to have nothing else till this car was done. It's really taking its toll on me. So the plan is now, I got it running here and I'm going to work on it in a bit here, a bit there. I'm going to try to work. I don't want to rush into paint work on it. I want to do a nice job on getting it painted. The few little things that are wrong with it, I can do that after the fact. I just got to get away from this car for a while now. I'm going to, you know, start sanding it, probably doing little videos on getting the body ready for paint, but don't expect it anytime soon. I don't even know if I'm going to get to it this year or not. I'm hoping to. I want to. I just that the channel relies on a lot of metal work to survive, and since I went at this Mustang, the channel views have dropped drastically. So it's one of those things, when a channel gets its niche, that niche is what people wants to see. They don't want to see me bolting together a Mustang, and there's hundreds of channels for that. They want to see me repairing rust. So I got to get back into that. Get some more of that stuff done, but I had to get this thing running. I can drive this in and out now. I can drive it to storage if I got to. I can put it outside the daytime now because all the windows and the panels and everything are on it, so I can work on other stuff. So that's the goal right now. So anyway, I'm going to leave this one here. I hope the tips were good, and until next time.